Hi everyone, this is Tian from Georgia State University. Thanks for visiting our video and it's a great honor to have you here. Hereafter, I would like to introduce our work on firms' IT disclosure as a response to data breaches happened in their industry. In specific, we tend to unfold the puzzles that whether the tone of IT disclosure is used to enhance information transparency or it is used to manipulate audience perceptions of the firm. Okay, let's get started. As we know, corporate voluntary disclosure, such as 10K reports and conference calls, are critical channels for public traded firms to communicate with their external stakeholders. In recent years, due to the powerful role played by information technology, firms' action of firms' action regarding IT security have become great concern of the investors. The firms are also required to be more transparent of their IT performance. So we can see there are increased IT related content voluntarily disclosed by the firms, and also there are increased attention being paid to these IT related disclosures. On the other hand, frequent data breaches further spotlight the firm's IT performance. We can see the examples such as the user records breach at Equifax and Marriott. Both events cost $100 million of the affected firms. And for the public, these data breaches not only result in concerns on the affected firms, but also they draw the investors' attentions to the IT performance of the peer firms in the same industry. So in this way, the data breaches happened in the industry further emphasize the importance of informative IT disclosure released by the peer firms. If we take a look at prior study on voluntary IT disclosure, we can see they mainly focus on whether the IT-related content are included in firms' annual filings, such as the 10K reports. But rare attention have been paid to the tone in the IT disclosure. Among the extant studies, we can see divergent findings about the informativeness of IT disclosure. We can see some studies, they demonstrate that firms which disclose IT risk mitigation are correspondingly less likely to experience data breach in the future. However, there are other studies indicate that firms' IT disclosure are more likely to be uniform boilerplate and actually cannot effectively communicate firms' internal IT information. Additional to these divergent findings, it is also important for us to note that the managers are strategic in their voluntary disclosure. Sometimes the voluntary disclosure is used to mitigate information asymmetry between the managers and external stakeholders. But literature also suggests that managers are motivated to use voluntary disclosure as impression manipulation tool to conceal risk and alter outsiders' perceptions. The manager's strategic behavior further complicates the debate on the informativeness of IT disclosure. So to contribute to the debate, our study considers two more factors regarding IT disclosure. The first is we consider the tone of IT disclosure. Since that the disclosure tone is the typical impression management techniques used in voluntary disclosure, especially when the managers are communicating with the stakeholders in an interactive and flexible manner, such as in Forms conference calls. This also motivates us to focus on the informativeness of IT disclosure in Forms conference call. Secondly, we consider the role of IT governance, since that the IT governance is suggested to associate with both Forms transparency in disclosure and their effectiveness in IT risk mitigation. We also adopt data breaches as context to investigate the informativeness of IT disclosure. Specifically, our study focuses on the IT disclosure made by the peer firms when other firms in their industries are affected by data breaches. Evidence show that the operation and market value of the peer firms can be influenced by this data breach in industry. So at this time, IT information is particularly critical for the investors to make their decisions towards the peer firms. As a response to the data breach happened in the industry, peer firms are supposed to be more careful to manage their tone when they disclose their own IT performance to external stakeholders. And in this context, the informativeness of the peer firm's IT disclosure can be inferred by the association between the disclosure tone and the likelihood of the firm to experience subsequent data breach. In summary, our study embeds in the context when data breaches occurred in an industry and investigate three questions. First, we consider whether the data breach event will make the peer firms to become more positive or negative in disclosing their own IT. Second, we investigate whether the tone changes of a peer firm associates with the firm's likelihood to experience future data breach. And thirdly, we investigate the role of IT governance. We consider how the IT governance influenced the IT disclosure tone and how it influenced the relationship between IT disclosure tone and future data breach. To empirically investigate these questions, we reach out to several data sources and constitute two data sets. One of them captures the peer firm's IT disclosure tone before and after the data breach happened in the industry. And the second data set captures the peer firm's tone change and their future likelihood to experience subsequent data breach. It worth note that a key challenge in our analysis is to accurately identify the tone used to disclose specific IT relevant content. As we know, the conference calls are comprehensive with the topics and flexible with structures. So actually, the IT related content can pop up at any time during the conference. To address this issue, we applied two steps. First, we use a neural network-based dependency parsing model to generate the grammatical relationships between the words for every sentence in the conference calls. And based on these generated syntactic pairs, we further identify those pairs with IT words and sentiment words. In this way, we can filter the specific tone used to disclose IT information and exclude tones used to disclose other unrelated content. Supported by a series of empirical analysis, our study finds that the peer firms become more positive to disclose their own IT when other firms in their industry are affected by data breaches. Regarding the informativeness of this increased positivity, we found that for the firms with superior IT governance, the increased positive IT disclosure is associated with lower probability of future data breach, which indicate that their IT disclosure to be more transparent. However, for the firms with inferior IT governance, the increased positive IT disclosure is associated with higher probability of future data breach. This result indicates that they are more likely to manipulate IT disclosure in data breach context. To conclude, our study unfolds the informativeness of firms' IT disclosure from a tone management perspective and discuss the role of IT governance. Our findings can provide the insights for both investors and regulators for their decisions in the practice. Okay, this is all we have for this video. Thanks again for your interest. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us by the email listed on the screen. Thanks.